Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up the source material on a real statement piece of tech. It's the HUAWEI Pura 70 Pro.
Yeah, and our sources, they all pretty much confirm this thing is positioned aggressively, right up there in the premium category. It's aiming to be, well, a technical masterpiece.
Right. And that's our mission today, isn't it? To really extract the core insights from these reviews.
Exactly. We need to figure out if this phone actually hits that sweet spot. That balance between looking super elegant and packing some serious hardware power underneath.
We're trying to look past the marketing buzzwords.
Yeah, to see if it genuinely makes your daily life better or if maybe the compromises, well, if they outweigh the power.
Because you, our listener, you need knowledge quickly, but you also need it to be thorough.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know if a device like this is actually worth the considerable investment. So we're going straight for the surprising facts, the real-world stuff.
The performance metrics that tell you if a phone is really flagship material in, 2024?
Okay, so where do we start? The look.
I think we have to. The design is like the immediate hook. The sources keep calling it undeniably striking.
Striking feels right. The reviews really hammer home that sophisticated aesthetic. You know, the curved edges, the way the camera bump looks integrated.
It definitely feels high-end in the hand.
But there's a small catch straight away, right? The finish.
Ah, yes. The glossy black looks amazing for about 5 seconds.
Ah, right.
It is a serious fingerprint magnet, so if you want it to keep looking premium, you'll be wiping this thing down constantly.
Good to know. A bit of a practical downside to the polish.
That's often the trade-off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But the real visual impact comes from the screen itself.
Okay, tell me about the display.
Well, first off, it's huge. We're talking 17.3 centimeters, which is 6.8 inches.
Oh, that's big.
It is. But the key thing the reviews point out is how they've engineered it. It's almost bezel-less.
So it feels really immersive.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with that 120 hertz refresh rate. Scrolling, videos, gaming. They say it just makes everything feel incredibly smooth and engaging.
My main worry with screens that big is, how does it actually feel to hold? Is it just awkward?
That's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources seem to agree Huawei did a good job with the weight distribution.
Okay.
It feels substantial, definitely has that flagship density, but apparently it stops short of being, unwieldy.
Mm-hmm.
The curve helps it sit well in the hand.
So usable day to day.
Seems so. One reviewer specifically mentioned using it for hours for e-reading single-handed, and it felt manageable. Didn't get that top-heavy strain you sometimes find.
Okay, that's reassuring. Now, a beautiful frame needs a brilliant picture. What's the verdict on the panel quality itself?
The word that keeps coming up is pop.
Pop.
Yeah. Colors are vivid, blacks are really deep, proper OLED blacks, and the brightness levels are strong. Good enough to handle being outdoors in sunlight without everything washing out.
Sounds like a top-tier panel, then.
It absolutely performs like one. But the real sort of aha moment, the thing that makes this big size practical, is multitasking.
Ah, the real estate benefit.
Exactly. That huge screen isn't just for watching movies. It's a productivity tool.
How so?
The reviews highlight split screen.
Yeah.
Having two apps open side by side.
Mm-hmm.
On this display, it apparently doesn't feel cramped. You can actually see both apps properly, type comfortably. It's a genuine advantage for heavy users.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it's a good transition, actually. A big, bright screen like that needs some serious horsepower behind it.
Absolutely. You can't have a display like that stuttering. So let's unpack the performance core.
What are we looking at?
Well, memory and storage are huge. 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of internal storage.
Wow. Okay. That's generous.
It is. The source material basically says this is clearly built for heavy users who don't want to compromise. You won't be running out of space or RAM easily.
But the heart of it, the engine driving everything, is the processor, right? The chipset.
Yes, and this is a key point. It's running the Kirin 9010 processor.
Huawei's own silicon.
Exactly. Their in-house high-end chip. Now, context is important here. If you just look at raw benchmark numbers, it might not always top, say, the latest Snapdragon or MediaTek.
Right. I've seen those comparisons.
But the sources really stress how well it's integrated with Huawei's own operating system. The efficiency is apparently exceptional.
So it's not about winning a theoretical speed test on paper. It's about how it feels in the real world.
Precisely that. The performance metrics they talk about are all focused on efficiency. Apps open instantly. Switching between tasks is seamless.
And gaming. That big screen begs for it.
Yep. Even running graphically demanding games, the reviews say there's no sense of the device struggling under pressure. It seems the optimization between the Kirin chip and the software really makes the most of the hardware.
That's a crucial point for listeners, I think. Sustained, smooth performance matters more than just peak numbers sometimes.
Really.
But pushing games like that, does it drain the battery quickly?
Ah, good question. That brings us to the battery. It's a pretty hefty 50 millirock capacity.
Okay, decent size.
And that efficiency of the Kirin chip we just talked about, it really helps here with longevity. The reports confirm it easily lasts a full day of heavy use.
Heavy use meaning.
Things like lots of camera use, gaming, video streaming. And for lighter users, they reckon it could stretch into a second day.
That's a big plus. Battery anxiety is real.
Totally. And it gets better. It supports USB Type-C fast charging, so topping it up is quick.
And wireless charging.
Yes, high-speed wireless charging is included too, based on the specs we saw. The takeaway from the sources is that you don't have to baby the battery or carry a charger everywhere.
Nice.
They actually single out this battery endurance and the fast charging as one of the phone's biggest strengths. Makes it feel really dependable, especially for professionals.
Okay, solid performance, great battery life. Let's pivot to cameras. This is usually Huawei territory. Expectations are high.
They are, and yeah, the Pura 70 Pro seems to maintain that reputation. The sources agree it really impresses in real-world use.
What's the key takeaway? Is it just good photos?
It's more than that. The photos are consistently sharp, well-balanced, vibrant, good detail in bright light and low light. But the real technical achievement seems to be how it manages dynamic range particularly well.
Okay, let's break that down quickly for listeners. Dynamic range management, what does that mean practically?
It's basically the camera's skill in capturing details in both the really bright parts of a photo, like the sky, and the really dark parts, like shadows, at the same time.
Without one blowing out or the other being crushed?
Exactly. The Pura 70 Pro apparently avoids those common problems, like washed out skies behind a subject or overshadowed corners where you lose all the texture. It handles tricky high-contrast scenes really well, likely thanks to good sensors and some clever software processing.
That sounds like strong computational photography at play. Does that processing ever go too far, though? I sometimes see comments about Huawei photos looking maybe too vibrant or processed.
That's a fair point, and yes, some sources did note that, especially in bright daylight. The default settings can push the colors and vibrancy a bit beyond strict realism. It's definitely tuned for a punky, instantly shareable look.
But you have options.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole array of shooting modes, portraits, landscapes, close-ups, giving you flexibility. And you can usually adjust exposure and other settings manually if you prefer something more neutral. So the control is there, even if the default is quite dramatic.
Okay, so top-tier design, optimized power with that Kirin chip, impressive battery, and a really capable camera system. Now, we have to talk about the software. The elephant in the room for any modern Huawei device.
We do. This is the crucial trade-off potential buyers must understand. First, the OS itself, Harmony OS, is described as clean and intuitive.
Smooth performance.
Yes, Huawei's focus on smooth performance and security is commendable. The underlying system feels quick and responsive according to the reviews. But
The app ecosystem caveat, let's spell it out clearly. What's the limitation?
okay, the core limitation is the lack of Google Mobile Services, GMS.
And why is that critical?
Because GMS provides the underlying framework for many of Google's own popular apps. Think native Google Maps, the official YouTube app, and crucially, the Google Play Store itself.
So those specific apps might not work or not work properly?
Exactly. Apps that rely heavily on GMS for things like push notifications or precise location data, maybe some banking apps, certain ride-sharing services, they might not function natively or they might require workarounds.
Okay, so what are the workarounds? The sources must mention how people cope, right? It's not like the phone is unusable.
Oh, absolutely not unusable. Far from it. The reviewers emphasize that for many, many users, the available services and the alternatives do cover most everyday needs just fine.
How do you get apps?
Huawei has its own app gallery, plus tools like Pedal Search that help you find and download apps from various sources, including third-party stores or websites. And importantly, many key Google services like Gmail or Google Calendar work perfectly well through the phone's web browser,
And things like YouTube.
often accessed via the browser or through alternative apps. There are also tools like Gbox or Gspace, which create a kind of virtual environment to run some GMS-dependent apps. They aren't always perfect, but they offer solutions.
So it requires a bit more effort from the user. You need to be willing to adapt and find solutions.
That's the crux of it. It's more of an adjustment, maybe an impedance for certain specific needs, rather than a complete roadblock. especially if you're a moderately tech-savvy user. It's a trade-off. Fantastic hardware versus out-of-the-box convenience for every single legacy app.
Got it. And any other practical connectivity points?
Yes, one thing highlighted is the dual SIM functionality. The sources say this is particularly appealing for travelers or people juggling work and personal numbers. Apparently, the phone handles switching between networks very smoothly. A solid practical win.
Okay, that brings us towards the wrap-up. Let's try and synthesize this deep dive. What's the final assessment?
I think the consensus is that the HUAWEI Pura 70 Pro definitely lives up to its premium billing, at least on the hardware front. The core strengths we've identified are pretty clear.
Which are? Quick recap.
That gorgeous, large, and very functional display. The optimized power you get from the Kirin 9010, paired with loads of RAM and storage, really impressive, long-lasting battery life. And that top-tier camera system, especially its skill with dynamic range, it all comes together in a package that feels, polished and dependable.
Okay. And the necessary counterpoints, the drawbacks.
Two main things. First, the sheer size. It might just be too big, maybe slightly daunting for those who prefer compact devices. But the much bigger consideration, obviously, is the software situation.
The GMS limitation.
Right. The lack of native Google mobile services requires that conscious user adaptation we talked about. It is a factor. That being said, the conclusion of the review seems pretty consistent. The strengths, the incredible hardware, the camera, the battery, the design, far outweigh its drawbacks.
Yeah.
Provided the user understands and is prepared for the app ecosystem reality.
Okay, so that leads perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If a phone offers genuinely market-leading hardware, beautiful design, and this kind of highly efficient custom-built processor, but it requires you to adjust your app habits, maybe use workarounds for certain services you're used to, how much value do you personally place on that hardware superiority and engineering excellence versus the absolute guaranteed zero-effort access to every single legacy app ecosystem? What tips the scale for you?